Welcome back! My name is Baller Scuba. This is Video Games Over Time! We are still in 1987. Today, we're going to talk about the lurking horror. The story of the lurking horror takes us back to Infocom. We have talked about Infocom several times before. They were responsible for Zork, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and Leather Goddesses of Phobos. We last talked about Infocom in our video on Station Fall. For the lurking horror, Infocom turned again to Dave Lebling. We have talked about Dave Lebling before. He helped contribute to the Zork games. We last talked about Dave Lebling in our video on Spellbreaker. For the story of the lurking horror, Dave Lebling was inspired by the writings of H.P. Lovecraft, especially the Cthulhu Mythos. For the layout of the game, Lebling was inspired by the layout of MIT, where he went to college. The Lurking Horror is an interactive fiction game. The player plays as a student at G.U.E Tech, a fictional American university, who must finish a term paper at the computer lab on campus. The plot, of course, complicates from there. Infocom released The Lurking Horror to computers originally on May 6, 1987. In a release known as Release 203. That is a brief backstory to the lurking horror. With that told, it's time to look at the physical items that came with the game, known as feelies. The game comes with a guide for the university. It is named the G.U.E at a Glance, a guide for freshmen. After giving the full name of the university, the George Underwood Edwards Institute of Technology, it shows the seal of the university, which shows that it was founded in 1692, which is the year of the Salem witch trials. The seal has a motto on it, Omne Ignotum Pro Magnifico, which is Latin and translates to Everything Unknown is Magnificent. The bottom of the cover states the guide is presented as a public service by the G.U.E Tech Social Committee. The first page allows students to fill out their personal information, emergency information, and class schedule. The second page shows a picture of stairs on campus. There is a quote underneath by George Underwood Edwards that says, "He who climbs up the steps of knowledge stands out among common men like a blueberry in a pan of milk." The guide then reads, "Welcome to G.U.E. You've probably been waiting to go to G.U.E Tech for years. Ever since you realized that science and math were more important to you than just about anything, except eating. And now here you are, in a community of people who feel exactly the same way. Of course, the first thing in your mind is academics, whether you can get a seminar with that Nobel laureate physics professor, how soon you can have 24 access to the computer center, whether you can get credit through a work-study program. Most of these questions can be answered by your freshman advisor or by the official student handbook. There are plenty of other questions, however, that you should also be asking yourself. Questions that your advisor will be hard put to answer. Questions like, where can you find the best pizza? Where can you find a date? Which dorms should you avoid? Should you subscribe to the meal plan? Where can you go if you're feeling out of control? This handbook attempts to answer some of these questions. Written by upper-class students, G.U.E at a Glance, sometimes known as GAAG, might tell you things the administration would rather you didn't know, but we believe that you'd find them out anyway, and that you'll be glad it's sooner rather than later. In spite of what your roommate will tell you, G.U.E Tech does not have the highest suicide rate in the country. However, it is a high-pressure school. While you're wondering what happened to the distraught student who used to sit next to you in introductory calculus, you might also be wondering how you're going to get through midterms without cracking up. When things get tough, don't panic. Help is always available, and no one will think the lesser of you for seeking it. Visits to the counseling center don't appear on your permanent record, and complete confidentiality is maintained at all times. One thing that just might drive you crazy is figuring out how to get around campus. While we've provided a map to help you identify the main dorm and class buildings, you probably won't feel at home until you've gotten lost a few times and stumbled back to familiar ground. There is then a picture of 3 students in a lab with the caption, "Future Nobel Laureates Experiment with the Electron Microscope." Mitch Clark, 89, shown at left, has won several national science awards for his microphotographic studies of magnetic stress on conductive wires. There is then a section of school traditions that says, Lock Day. In a bizarre twist on Caltech's Ditch Day, seniors leave school after locking the cafeteria doors with intricate electronic equipment. Underclassmen must undo the electronic puzzles before they can eat. Slug Stomping. Watch for the first slugs of the year and step on them. Founders Day. One night during the last week of spring term, the huge bronze statue of George Underwood Edwards mysteriously disappears from its pedestal and shows up the next day in some totally offbeat spot. A certain rowdy fraternity is rumored to spend the entire year planning this prank. Final Scream. At a designated time during final exam week, everyone screams in unison. Pigeon Day. The president rings a bell at 6 a.m. one spring morning and puts a statue of a giant pigeon on the lawn. No classes for the day. Free food at night. Streamer Day. Take all the toilet paper rolls from the bathrooms and throw them out of the dorm windows. The next page has a picture of a corridor with a caption that says, The infinite corridor connecting the aeronautics and chemistry buildings seems to stretch into infinity. It will soon become as familiar to you as your dorm room. The guide continues, Large underground tunnels connect most of the buildings. However, many of these tunnels are very old, and a number have been closed for safety reasons. While you may be tempted to explore, don't risk it. Several deaths have been attributed to student explorations in the tunnels. Closed tunnels are off limits. They're closed for a reason, and we encourage students to restrain their curiosity and keep out of them. It's usually easiest for new students to live in a dormitory and subscribe to the school meal plan. In the case of G.U.E's food service, it's worst. Food ranges from bad to inedible, and the cafeterias are only open for a few hours around each mealtime. If you haven't signed up for the meal plan, or when you're planning ahead for next year, consider roughing it. Dorm-sized refrigerators are easy to come by, and the area supermarkets carry a wide variety of both recognizable and exotic items. When you're looking for a hot meal, check our list of favorite hangouts. First-year students are usually stuck with whatever room they're assigned to. Elrod Bach is the best freshman dorm. Marani House is the worst. Best upper-class dorms are Berkowitz Hall and Luntz House. Chapelgate is well known as a party dorm. It's a good place to be if you like a party. It's a bad place to be if you plan on getting any sleeping or studying done in your room. Most dorms are co-ed, with men and women housed on separate floors. A few of the small upper-class dorms are for men only, and Stella Barton Hall houses 15 senior women. You'll also want to consider G.U.E's fraternities and sororities. Pledging takes place the first week on campus. Since each house appeals to a different type, you'll need to look into all of them to find one that's a good match for you. For more information, contact the Interfraternity Council. Dorm furniture is strictly functional and, if you're lucky, less than 50 years old. Most students outgrow the dorm bookshelf within one semester. You can buy cheap but sturdy bookcases at Dave's Discount Decor, along with beanbag chairs, lava lamps, and designer telephones. One current favorite, a glow-in-the-dark skull with gleaming red eyes, chortles instead of rings. In the middle of the guide is a basic map of the school. Below, it reads, The bequest of George Underwood Edwards permitted the merger of several venerable institutions, including the famed Hopewell Academy of Natural Science, into the George Underwood Edwards Institute of Technology. Departments were founded in such radical disciplines as mechanical engineering, chemical biology, and architecture, and an exciting new campus was built along River Street. Although the campus has since expanded in all directions, nearly all of the original structures remain. This map includes the buildings you're most likely to use every day. For a more detailed, although less portable, map of the area, refer to your student handbook. The guide continues, Although you'll be spending most of your time studying, it's important to remember that life exists outside of your textbooks and your computer screen. Take an afternoon to visit the Museum of Contemporary Art or the Loeffler Aquarium. Join the freshman drama group or the Hellenic Club. Write a weekly column for the G.U.E G News. Take advantage of the athletic complex, whose weekly pickleball tournaments draw a lively crowd. There is then a picture of the quad with a caption that says, "Students relax on the quad in front of Edwards Hall, one of the architectural gems of G.U.E Tech. The campus spans a century in building design, ranging from the Victorian opulence of Edwards Hall to the reflective glass facade of the Nutrition Building." There is a section on some G.U.E Tech jargon that lists frob, noun, a thing, useful when you have two unspecified objects on hand. Stick that frob on the thing over there. Tool, noun, a nerd, someone who studies all the time, never taking time for a social life. Verb, to study, I'm tooling tonight. Hack, noun, a prank. Painting the dean's house pink was a great hack. Verb, to commit a prank. We hacked the dean's house. P, suffix. Adding the P suffix to a word makes it a question. A derivative of the Lisp computer language where P indicates predicate, for example, greater P x y, meaning is x greater than y, most commonly heard among tools majoring in computer science. Food P, pronounced food P, means are you hungry? Grease, noun, student politician. Verb, to pass a course without working on it. I greased thermodynamics. Rug rat, or rat, noun, freshman. Presumably derives from the use of this term as a synonym for child. Urchin, noun, a local child or teenager who hangs around campus and often causes objects of value to mysteriously disappear. Curdle, verb, to astonish, usually with a connotation of the surprise being unpleasant. I was really curdled when I saw my final grades. Flip, verb, to kill time by some essentially boring means, such as playing hearts, may derive from flipping bottle caps, or perhaps baseball cards. I spent last night flipping. Midnight, adjective, before noon. Midnight class is a class before noon. Midnight quiz is an early morning quiz. The next page shows a classroom with a caption that reads, "Biology students delve into the mysteries of the digestive system. This popular course makes full use of G.U.E's modern laboratory facilities." The guide continues, "Men, before driving to Oak Haven Junior College for the Friday night mixer, why not try Rudy's Eating and Drinking Saloon, 2 blocks down Capitol Avenue? Or better yet, say hello to the woman sitting next to you in Bio 100. Women, there's no need to go anywhere. With a male-female ratio of 6-to-1, someone will say hello to you." Another way to broaden your college life is to take a class entirely unrelated to your distribution requirement or your major. The Zinc as Life Force seminar in the Department of Alchemy is but one of the many unusual courses you'll find in your catalog. There is a section of favorite hangouts. It lists Crust and Noodles, best Italian restaurant in town. Riley's Real Irish Pizza, pizza delivery until 2 a.m. Hoagie Shack, good subs, pastrami and sauerkraut a traditional favorite. Rudy's Eating and Drinking Saloon, the local meat market. Dot and Dash, 24-hour diner specializing in late-night breakfast. House of Roy, in Chinatown, open late, great food, and cheap. The guide concludes, "Whatever you do, avoid Professor Hamstop's astronomy classes. He's a tenured bore, and you can probably learn more by just gazing at the sky. Also beware of Professor Teague's intensive metallurgy course, Dr. Morlock's Introduction to Fuel Gas Engineering, Dr. Najil's Moral Philosophy classes, Professor Carlson's Seminar in Textile Technology, and any junior instructor. Above all, remember that all of us on the social committee were freshmen once too. Don't feel shy about approaching one of us for wisdom or advice. And don't forget that we all made it through that tough first year at G.U.E. So can you. The next page is for a directory. The main character has written some notes here. At the top it says, "Don't forget snacks for Friday party." There is a contact for Chris Liu at Chapelgate with phone number X8990. There is an entry for ChemLab TTH13, lab partner, Artie Knowlton, with phone number X2981. There is a contact for Mitch with phone number X5417. There's an entry for Intro Calc with the number 27-302. At the bottom, there is an entry for a password listed as Ulersoth, with a reminder that says, "Don't tell anyone." The last page shows the school's alma mater. It says the words and music are by Major Chaz Gleason, retired 22. It has a note that says, at the turn of the century, G.U.E. was commonly pronounced G.U.E. rather than G.U.E. as it is today. The former pronunciation should be used when singing the alma mater. The alma mater reads, "When Georgie planned his institute upon the river's neck, he little guessed the glories that would fall on G.U.E. Tech. So let's all toast our founder, raise high the glass of beer. There's nothing we would rather be than a G.U.E. engineer. Our commonwealth of farmers held industry in check until a school for engineers broke ground at G.U.E. Tech. Architects built up the country, designing bridge and deck. The best were trained and tutored right here at old G.U.E. Tech. But G.U.E.'s more than labs and texts, so let's say what the heck. On Pigeon Day, we'll take a break from class at G.U.E. Tech. The G.U.E. buddies that you make will long be at your beck. You'll not find dearer friendships than those forged at G.U.E. Tech. So let's all toast our founder, raise high the glass of beer. There's nothing we would rather be than a G.U.E. engineer." There's another note at the bottom that reads, "It is customary for the chorus to be sung only by seniors and alumni, while the tune is hummed by underclassmen. The final chorus is repeated with everyone joining in." The game also comes with a George Underwood Edwards Institute of Technology student ID card. It has a barcode with a number 872325412. The front reads, "The individual whose signature and code appear on this card shall be entitled to all stated benefits of a G.U.E. Tech student, including the use of library and cafeteria facilities. Please present card when using said facilities." The back of the card reads, "This card is issued solely for your convenience. Do not allow anyone else to use it. Protect your card and code number at all times, and report any loss or theft promptly. Misuse of the card, including bending, folding, spindling, or other mutilation, will result in loss of card privileges and other penalties as determined on an individual basis by the G.U.E. Tech Discipline Committee. This is not a credit card. This card remains the property of, and if found should be returned to, George Underwood Edwards Institute of Technology. It is not transferable, must be surrendered upon demand, and may be cancelled as well as repossessed, and the privileges hereunder revoked at any time without prior notice." The back of the box has an introduction that reads, "Ever since you arrived at G.U.E. Tech, you've heard stories about the creepy old campus basements and storage rooms, some so ancient that they contain only rotting piles of unidentifiable junk. Until now, you have never ventured lower than the ground floors of the monolithic classroom and dorm buildings, avoiding the warren of tunnels that connect them. But tonight, something draws you down into the mysterious depths of the Institute. Perhaps it's the blizzard raging outside, making the outdoors as threatening as anything you could imagine within. Perhaps it's the nightmare you had, hinting at horrific mysteries below and leaving you with a strange object that seems to lead you inexorably downward. Or perhaps it's just another way for you to avoid writing that 20-page term paper you have due tomorrow. In any event, you soon find yourself wandering away from your computer and into the dark nether regions of G.U.E. Tech. Suddenly you're in a world that rivals your most hideous visions, a realm of horror lurking beneath the calm corridors and study halls. Shapes emerge from dark corners. Eerie sounds draw closer. Slimy passageways lead to sights so horrifying they will feed you nightmares for weeks. The lurking horror recalls the ghastly visions of H.P. Lovecraft and Stephen King, as author Dave Lebling turns an everyday world into a frightening web of uncertainty. The numerous puzzles will challenge both first-time and experienced players, and Lebling's chilling descriptions will leave you with images you'll never forget. The manual also has a short preface to the story that reads, "In the lurking horror, you are a student at G.U.E Tech. You have braved a snowstorm to get to the computer center and finish work on an assignment. But the snowstorm has turned into a raging blizzard and has trapped you in a complex of buildings late at night. You are not alone, fortunately, or perhaps unfortunately." That is a backstory to the lurking horror. With that told, it's time to play the game for ourselves. You've waited until the last minute again. This time it's the end of the term, so all the Technic terminals in the dorm are occupied. So off you go to the old comp center. Too bad it's the worst storm of the winter. Murphy's Law, right? And you practically froze to death slogging over here from the dorm. Not to mention jumping at every shadow, what with all the recent disappearances. Time to find a free machine, get to work, and write that 20-page paper. And here we are in the game. This is The Lurking Horror, an interactive horror. Copyright 1987 by Infocom, like we talked about. This is release 221. I wanted to point out that the original release was 203. That was released on May 6th. This is release 221, released on September 18th. So, what is that? A little over 4 months later. That is important because we will notice a pretty big difference between release 221 and 203, and it has to do with kind of the technical aspects of the game, and we'll talk about that when it comes up, but I will let the game just introduce that feature, so to speak. A couple things before we get into it. References. Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will go wrong. That's the easiest way to describe Murphy's Law, at least the most acceptable one. Then a couple references in the materials leading up to this in the introduction. G.U.E Tech, right? The name of the school is a reference to Zork and its grand underground empire, which also goes by G.U.E. So there's that. Also, there was a brief mention in the brochure for Hitchhiker's Guide. It said, "Don't panic," all in caps. So the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy media franchise, I guess you could say at this point. It references that, and of course, Infocom made a Hitchhiker's game, so it makes sense for them to reference that as they go. All right, so we're going to do a text adventure game here, pretty much the same as we have done before. Pretty much. I do have to clarify that one. So let's just get into it. We've introduced the game enough. Let's just kind of go forward and do what we can. I'm going to be using a spooky-ish voice, at least a deeper voice for this than I normally do for these kinds of games, because it's not supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be scary. It is an interactive horror after all. So let's get into it. Terminal room. This is a large room crammed with computer terminals, small computers, and printers. An exit leads south. Banners, posters, and signs festoon the walls. Most of the tables are covered with waste paper, old pizza boxes, and empty Coke cans. There are usually a lot of people here, but tonight it's almost deserted. A really whiz-bang PC is right inside the door. Nearby is one of those ugly molded plastic chairs. Sitting at a terminal is a hacker whom you recognize. When they say hacker, they probably mean just kind of computer programmer, not like prankster, like they meant in other... in the brochure, they kind of meant like prankster when they meant hacker. They probably don't mean that this time. So, like I'm going to do in every game like this, I'm going to start by doing verbose. I want to see all the descriptions. Thank you. Okay, let's do something important. Let's turn on the PC. The computer powers up, goes through a remarkably fast self-check, and greets you, requesting login, please. The only sound you hear is a very low hum. So yeah, this is a computer that needs to self-check. It's been a while since I've used one of those, but in 1987, that's definitely a thing. We're going to log in. We need to use our student ID number, which you can find on the student ID card that we described. That's 872325412. The computer responds, "Password, please." And then we're going to do the password that we got from the back of the brochure, Ullersoth. The computer responds, "Good evening. You're here awfully late." It displays a list of pending tasks, one of which is in blinking red letters with large arrows pointing to it. The task reads classics paper. Some particularly ominous words next to it say due tomorrow, and more reassuringly, a menu box next to that reads edit classics paper. All right, let's try to edit that. We're going to use the computer by the word choose. Choose just kind of means click on the button. I assume with a mouse, but we're going to choose edit. The menu box is replaced by the Yak text editor and menu boxes listing the titles of your files. The one for your paper is highlighted in a rather urgent looking shade of red. All right, we're going to choose the paper. I would love to see the UI for this because nothing that I know will let you schedule like when files are due or stuff like that. But we're going to choose the paper. You click the box for your paper and the box grows reassuringly until it fills most of the screen. Unfortunately, the text that fills it bears no resemblance to your paper. The tile is the same, but after that, there is something different. Very different. Oh no, you said reassuringly twice, and now I'm not reassured at all. Let's read the paper, see what's going on here. Did somebody edit it? Was the hacker actually a prankster? The paper appears to be a facsimile overlaid with occasional typescript. The text is mostly in a sort of old English you've never seen before. What you read is a combination of incomprehensible gibberish, Latinate pseudo-words, debased Hebrew and Arabic scripts, and an occasional disquieting phrase in English. As you look at it more closely, you find it hard to focus on the screen, but impossible to look away. Your finger strays toward the More button. Latinate pseudo-words, fake Latin words. That's what that means. All right, we're going to choose, well, yes, choose More. And when I say More, I mean I'm choosing More. Touch the More box and a new page appears. The second page, which is much like the first, but around the edges, not when you look at it straight, it's almost readable. There is something about a summoning your visitor. More. The third page is in the same script as the first, but laid out like a poem. There are woodcut illustrations which are queasily disturbing. There is a translation, or notes for one, typed between the lines of the poem. He returns. He is called back. The loyal one's acolytes make a sacrifice. Those who survive will meet him, be absorbed, eaten. They will live, yet die. Forever will be, is nothing to them. To him, his place, lair, burrow, must be prepared. His food, offerings, must be prepared. Call him forth, invite him with great power. Only an acceptable, tasteful sacrifice will call him forth. He will be grateful, satiated. The rest is even more fragmentary. More. The fourth page is a photograph. You try to recoil from the screen, but cannot. Fascinated and repelled at the same time, you wonder, is that a mouth? And what is in it? More. And here is the technical upgrade. This version of the game, in a first for Infocom, has sound. You faint, and when you awaken. Place. This is a place. Things move about on a broken, rocky surface. Harsh sounds split the air. Something sticky grabs at your feet. There is no color. Everything is drained of brightness, dull and lifeless. A path descends into a shallow bowl of black basalt. Let's head down as it gets louder. We've made it to the basalt bowl. You are at the bottom of a deeply cut, smooth basalt bowl. Dimly seen shapes crowd you on all sides. Ahead, in the focus of the movement, is a rock platform. Go down again. It gets louder. You stand before a low rock platform, more like an afterthought of piled rocks or a glacial moraine than a work of artifice. You are pushed against the pile by the crowd around you. One small stone stands out in the pile, smooth, shiny, and glowing with a blazing light. Get the stone. Get the points. And it gets louder. Suddenly, the dimness becomes darkness, and the crowd around you explodes with excitement. You are jostled and shoved from all sides. A low keening begins, building into a deafening, almost mechanical chant. The darkness before you compacts and deepens. You just have to wait this out. The darkness before you, now visible, is a creature. It towers over the now silent crowd. The thing jerks this way and that, spraying a foul ichor. Its palps twitch expectantly, then pound impatiently against the rock. You can feel the smooth stone vibrating in your hand. Wait again. The thing now turns, sensing the presence of the stone. It quests almost blindly for it. Then those surrounding you thrust you forward. The thing stoops, its mandibles grasping you. You are lifted towards its gaping maw. The stench and the sounds issuing from it are overwhelming, and you fall unconscious. You are awakened by the thump of your head hitting the terminal in front of you. Falling asleep over term papers. It must have been a nightmare. Embarrassed, you glance around. Yes, the hacker is looking in your direction. He must have heard the thump. And we're back in the terminal room. We just had a dream, surely. Except we do have that stone. At this point, I'm supposed to kind of look at the hacker. We would find out that he was hungry and he has keys, but we'll just assume we know that. All right, we'll get up. You get out of the chair. The hacker wanders over, trying to look nonchalant. Losing, huh? He asks wittily. He glances at your terminal, which displays a pattern of snow and unusual characters. He appears somewhat excited. All right, we are just going to leave him for now. And we are going to go south to the second floor. This is the second floor of the computer center. An elevator and call buttons are on the south side of the hallway. A large, noisy room is to the north. Stairs also lead up and down for the energetic. To the west, a corridor leads into a smaller room. We are going to go to the smaller room, the kitchen. This is a filthy kitchen. The exit is to the east. On the wall near a counter, a refrigerator and a microwave. Sitting on the kitchen counter is a package of funny bones. We are not going to deal with that. We're going to open the fridge. Opening the refrigerator reveals a 2-liter bottle of classic Coke and a cardboard carton. We are going to get both of those. Classic Coke because it is not new Coke, which was a thing in the 80s. Classic Coke is what we refer to as Coke these days. Kind of. So we got the Coke and the carton. That is all that we need from there. We are going to open the microwave and put the carton in the microwave. The carton contains leftovers, food. So we're going to heat that up. Close the microwave. We are going to press high on the microwave in order to set the power level to high. Then we will press 4, then press 0 again, and that will give us 4 minutes. Then we'll press start. Okay, and then every turn is now a minute. The microwave starts up, the timer begins counting down. We'll drink the Coke. Delicious, contains caffeine, one of the 4 basic food groups. Too bad they make it with fructose these days instead of sucrose. You feel much more alert and awake now. Yeah, high fructose corn syrup. That's what you have to expect, but it was new back then. We then will drop the assignment and Coke. And then we will wait for the microwave to finish here. The microwave stops. The timer display now reads 000. We'll open the microwave, get the carton of now hot leftovers, and we'll go east and north back to the terminal room, and we will give the carton to the hacker. Like I said, he's hungry. Serious food. He plunges into the food with all the delicacy and table manners of a shark in a feeding frenzy. Soon as satisfied expression appears on his face. Now, what is it you were wanting? We're going to ask hacker about keyring. I've accumulated a few keys over the years. I'm a licensed locksmith, which helps. I can get into any room at Tech. He pulls the key ring out on its chain and shows off a key you hadn't noticed before. This is a master key, he says. I think I still have to specify hacker. For master key. Well, I suppose I could loan you the master key for a while. Just don't get into trouble, okay? I'll find you later when I'm done with all this and get it back. He hands you the key, which is a crazy thing to have happen, but that's what happened. We gave him food. He gives us... oh, yeah. I had issues earlier, but we're going to get past those issues. We give him food. He gives us the master key for the whole university. Nobody should be trusting this man with keys. All right, so that's a good spot to save right there. Let's go south to the second floor and then down to the computer center lobby. This is the lobby of the computer center. An elevator and call buttons to the south. Stairs also lead up and down for the energetic. To the north is Smith Street. We're going to press up and we're going to go south into the elevator. This is a battered, rather dirty elevator. The fake wood walls are scratched and marred with graffiti. The elevator doors are open. To the right of the doors is an area with floor buttons B and 1 through 3, an open button, a close button, a stop switch, and an alarm button. Below these is an access panel, which is closed. Oh, you know what we're going to do. Open the access panel. Opening the access panel reveals a flashlight. The door is closed. We're going to get the flashlight. And then we will press open and head north. Back to the computer center as the doors close behind us. We'll go down into the basement. We were told not to come here, so you know we had to come here. Bare concrete walls line a wide corridor leading east and west. An elevator and call button are to the south. Stairs also lead up for the energetic. From floor to ceiling run wire channels and steam pipes. For the record, forget the paper. We're not writing the paper. If you thought that was what was going to happen in this game, you are sorely mistaken. We want to head west to the Aero basement. This is the basement underneath, I believe, the Aeronautics building. This basement level room is made of smooth, damp-seeming concrete. Fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows. To the west is a stairway, and to the east is a basement. The basement area continues. There's a forklift here. We're going to need that forklift. Am I certified for this? Absolutely not. Am I still going to do it? Yep. Get into the forklift. Turn on forklift. You don't need the key for this. All right, the forklift sputters to life. Let's head east. Back to the basement and east again to the temporary basement. During the Second World War, some temporary buildings were built to house war-related research. Naturally, these buildings, though flimsy and ugly, are still around. This is the basement of one of them. The basement extends west. A stairway leads up, and a large passage is to the east. There's a pair of electrician's gloves and a crowbar here. Let's get off the forklift. I didn't even do the fun part of the forklift, but we are going to need to get the gloves and the crowbar. We're going to wear the gloves. You put on the gloves. They're a little big, but not really such a bad fit at all. Then we will head up and turn the flashlight on because it is pitch black here. And we're in the temporary lab. This is a laboratory of some sort. It takes up most of the building on this level, all the interior walls having been knocked down. One reason these temporary buildings are still here is their flexibility. No one cares if they get more or less destroyed. A stairway leads down and a door leads north. There's a metal flask here. I'm going to need that flask. That's what we came for, so let's head back down and get in the forklift again and head east. The whole time we have the flashlight on. That is important. We've made it to the dead storage. This is a storage room. It contains an incredible assemblage of discarded junk. Some of it is so old and moldering that you can't be sure where one bit of junk stops and the next begins. It's piled to the ceiling on ancient rotting pallets. You can't even see the east wall. And this is where we need to use the forklift. We are going to move the junk. You have a little trouble using the forklift, but it's not really all that hard. You start clearing junk, moving it around and trying to create a passage. We're going to need to do this several times. You continue moving junk, becoming more proficient with the forklift. Again. You've built a fairly narrow, about 1 forklift wide path through the junk. You can see an opening into a further storage room beyond this one. All right, we can get off the forklift, just leave it here. And then we'll head east to find the ancient storage. What's deader than dead storage? That's what's in this room. Most of the contents have collapsed or rusted back to the primordial ooze. There is mold growing on some of the unidentifiable piles. Stagnant puddles of water pollute the floor. You can now believe how old some of these foundations are said to be. There is a closed, disused-looking manhole here. All right, we are going to need to open that. So we're going to open manhole with crowbar, specifically with crowbar. You lever the manhole cover aside. Encrusted dirt falls into a dark, partly obstructed hole below. You know, we're going deeper and down. You push your way through cobwebs, damp fungus, and other obstructions. We've made it to the brick tunnel. This is an ancient tunnel constructed of roughly mortared bricks and stones. A slippery and almost invisible set of handholds leads up. The tunnel continues a long way north and south from here. Okay, what we need to do from here is head north to the renovated cave. You are in a huge cave-like construction. A path leads down to a floor partly covered with rough concrete. The walls and ceiling are high and reinforced with beams of wood, iron, and steel. In the center of the floor, you can see a large flat slab of granite. The only exit is behind you to the south. That's not good. We want to head down further again to the altar, technically before the altar. You are at the bottom of the cave. The huge slab of granite in the center is a sort of altar. It is carved with strange and disturbing symbols, the largest of which looks very familiar. Some of the stones are obscured by rusty red stains. Nearby is an iron plate set in the concrete of the floor. Lying to one side of the altar stone is a sharp, thin-bladed knife. We're going to need that. And then we're leaving. Up, south, up, west, west, and west again, back to the regular basement. We can turn the flashlight off at this point, and then, we need to do that to save the batteries. Then we're going to save again and overwrite that. I made it pretty far, so we're going to do that for a little bit. So we got some items. That's the big thing. Let's head west from here back to the arrow basement, west again to the stairway. A dimly lit stairway leads up and down from here. The corridor continues east. We'll go up to the arrow lobby. This is the lobby of the aeronautical engineering building. Stairs lead down in a corridor head south towards the main building. Couldn't read any of that, but it's fine. We're moving on. We need to go south from here to the infinite corridor. One of the scary things that they mentioned, we've done both of the scary things in the pamphlet now. We went to the basement through the tunnels down there, and now we're at the infinite corridor. The so-called infinite corridor runs from east to west in the main campus building. This is the west end. Side corridors lead north and south, and a set of doors lead west into the howling blizzard. There's a plastic container here. There's a largish machine being operated down the hall to the east. The plastic container, we're going to need that. It contains wax. It's wax for the largest machine that we're about to see. All right, so we got the plastic container. And once we do that, we want to go east to the infinite corridor. The so-called, right, same stuff. The corridor extends both ways from here. Many closed and locked offices are to the north and south. A maintenance man is here, riding a floor waxer. I assume like a Zamboni or a riding mower type thing, but it's a floor waxer, because the ones that I know of are kind of handheld, but he's riding his, which is probably very nice. But it is plugged in, so weird. Either way, we need to wait for him to leave. So wait. 4. The floor waxer waxes away to the east, and then we're just going to follow him. A stairway leads up, and a door leads out to the great court. The maintenance man is here riding a floor waxer. There is a wall socket on one wall, and a heavy-duty power cord is plugged into it. The cord leads to a large floor waxer. Yeah, it's not like diesel-powered. It does need to be indoors, but still kind of weird. Either way. We're going to go up from here to the great dome. Here, a walkway circles the base of the huge ornate dome. Below is the infinite corridor. From stories of tech exploring trips, you recall that there is supposed to be a ladder here. On the other hand, there is a shiny rope-like thing hanging near where the ladder used to be, and leading upward. Below you in the corridor, you can see a floor waxer busily waxing the floor. Okay, we need the gloves for this part, but we already have them on, so let's climb the rope. The wet stuff on the strand sticks to the gloves, but doesn't otherwise affect you. You have a little trouble climbing up to the catwalk, but grab the rail just before your strength gives out. You heave yourself up onto the catwalk. You stand up on the catwalk, catching your breath for a moment. Your eyes stray along the strand you climb. It trails along the catwalk where it joins something large and squishy squatting at the far side. A single bright blue eye opens in the squishy mass, and the tentacle, for that's what it is, retreats. The mass almost flows through the spaces in the catwalk railing and drops to the floor 15 feet below. Before you can react, it's gone. You made it to the top of the dome. Inside the great dome, near the top, a metal catwalk is precariously perched. There is no way further up, but a small metal door is set in the side of the dome. Where the pulpy mass was squatting, a wooden ladder lies on the catwalk. What we need to do is open the door. You open the door, and freezing air, blowing snow, and howling wind enter and whip around you. Then we go north out into the snow. You enter the freezing, biting cold of the blizzard. To the roof of the Great Dome. You are perched precariously on the roof of the Great Dome. A set of narrow indentations in the dome provide a dangerous route to the very tip top of the dome. We are going to need that to go that way, so let's go up. You scramble up the icy surface of the dome, almost slipping a few times, but finally you make it to the top on the Great Dome. This is the very top of the Great Dome, a favorite place for tech fraternities to install cows, Volkswagen Beetles, giant birthday candles, and other bizarre objects. The top is flat, round, and about 5 feet in diameter. It's very windy, which has kept the snow from accumulating here. The only way off is down. In the exact center of the flat area is a bronze plug. Bitter, bone-cracking cold assaults you continuously. The temperature and the blizzard conditions are both horrible. For the record, MIT does kind of have this thing about putting like cars and weird things in weird places like that. This is very MIT coded, so to speak. Okay, so we need to pull the bronze plug. You pry the plug out of its socket, revealing a cylindrical hole about the same diameter but somewhat deeper. There's a piece of paper in the hole. We're going to need to get that paper, and then we'll read it. You unroll the piece of paper and read the shaky handwriting. I can no longer face what I've been doing. I can't sleep. I start at the slightest noise, and even dulling my senses with alcohol or drugs is no longer enough. I refuse to participate in what he is doing anymore. Either he is insane, or I am insane, or, and this is what I fear most, the universe itself is insane. I have only one final warning. I am the only suicide, but I will not be the final death. The name signed to it is oddly familiar. All right, well, we got what we needed, so let's head down to the roof, south to the top of the dome. We now have the ladder. We can lower the ladder. You lower the ladder to the walkway below. It's just the right length to climb down. And then we'll go down back to the Great Dome. Suddenly you remember why the graduate student's name was familiar. He was a missing student until his body was found smashed and broken at the base of the tallest building on campus. Fun. Down again to the infinite corridor. The floor waxer is now to the east, and so we will follow him. Many closed and locked offices are to the north and south. There is a glass-fronted emergency cabinet here. It is like an in case of fire emergency cabinet. That's what they're talking about. There's the largest machine being operated down the hall to the east. The floor waxer approaching from the east is now here. All right, so him being here is fine. Let's go ahead and break the glass. Wearing the heavy gloves, you confidently smash the glass with a blow of your hands. There's an axe inside. We're just going to go ahead and get it. We are going to cut the cord with the axe. The axe crashes against the floor and the power cord severs. The whine of the floor waxer slows and the maintenance man jerks to alertness. Yeah, he probably is not happy with us. Let's open the plastic container. You pull off the seal and open the container, revealing a smelly, viscous liquid. The maintenance man, growling foul-sounding imprecations, descends from the floor waxer and heads towards you. We're going to pour the liquid onto the floor. It pours out and spreads like ants at a picnic. The floor is now covered from wall to wall with slippery floor wax. The maintenance man, attempting to get closer to you, enters the waxed part of the floor. He begins to slip and slide, barely able to maintain his balance, much less advance. The maintenance man continues slipping, falling, standing, and so on. He reminds you of a badly made wind-up toy. Okay, once we get that, we're just going to leave him. This is what we needed to do. We're going to go east. The maintenance man's basically out of our way now. You slip and slide on the wax. It's like walking on wet ice. You barely keep upright, but it's worse for the maintenance man. His gait is so jerky that each time he takes a step, he falls. His persistence is impressive, but you slip literally by before he can grab you. Yeah, east of there, hooray. Infinite corridor. The corridor, this is the east end. The corridor branches north and south here. There's a largest machine down the hall to the west. The maintenance man is struggling. Same struggling. Let's head north from here to the fruits and nuts. This is the central corridor of the nutrition building. The main building is south and a stairway leads down. Then from here, we want to go down to the cluttered passage. This cluttered passage leads southeast. It is full of apparently discarded electronic equipment, old rusty file cabinets, and other detritus. A stairway also leads up. We want to go southeast from here to the brown basement. This is a cluttered basement below the brown building. Discarded equipment nearly blocks an already narrow hallway that terminates in a stairway leading up. The passage itself continues northwest. There's a pair of rubber boots here. Yeah, we're going to need to get those boots and... What? Was I supposed to drop something? Oh, drop the plug. I forgot to drop the plug. I don't think it matters, but I don't think we're going to need that. So we'll get the boots. And now we'll wear the boots. Snug, but okay. Yeah, we're right at the peak of inventory, so you got to be careful about all the things. All right, let's head up from here to the brown building. This is the lobby of the brown building, an 18-story skyscraper which houses the meteorology department and other outposts of the earth sciences. The elevator is out of order, but a long stairway leads up to the roof, and another leads down to the basement. A revolving door leads out into the night. Let's head up again to the top floor. This is the top of the stairway. A door leads out to the roof here, and you can hear the wind blowing beyond. There's a sign on the door. We're just going to ignore all the signs. We do need to, at this point, unlock the door, but we actually are going to need the master key for this one. Unlock door with master key. Then open the door. You push the door open, revealing a windswept, snow-covered roof. Frigid wind whips snow into your face. Let's head west to the skyscraper roof. You enter the freezing, biting cold of the blizzard. A low parapet surrounds the small roof here. The air conditioning cooling tower and the small protrusion containing the stairs are dwarfed by a semi-transparent dome which towers above you. The blowing snow obscures all detail of the city across the river to the south. Okay, let's head up to a dome. Inside the dome, you are inside a large domed area. The dome contains equipment that makes it clear as a weather observation station. For some reason, it also contains a small peach tree. Wind whistles outside and snow blasts against the semi-transparent material of the dome. Something smashes against the glass of the dome. You turn and see a dark shape clinging to the outside of the structure. We can ignore that for now. If you inspect the peach tree, you'll see that there's some kind of disturbed earth there, and then you dig in it. So dig in earth is what we need to do. You root around in the dirt for a while when you encounter something hard. Further exploration reveals it to be a dried, chewed-looking human hand. The dark shape moves around. Above the howl of the wind, you hear a high-pitched keening noise. Okay, we don't hear that yet. We'll take the hand. The shape drops out of view. We'll go back down. You enter the freezing, biting cold of the blizzard. A dark shape watches balefully from nearby. The shape rises, bearing needle-sharp teeth and pumping its wings painfully in the gale. I'm going to give you guys a little warning here. There's some sound coming at this one. We need to throw stone at the shape. Ready? Here it comes. The stone hits the dark beast and appears to go completely through it as though the creature was made of air. The smooth stone disappears over the south edge of the building, and the creature follows it, screaming frustration into the storm. Bitter, bone-cracking cold assaults you continuously. The temperature and the blizzard conditions are both horrible. We did it, I guess. We made it scream. We'll go east of here to the top floor, down, and then south. Back outside. You enter the freezing, biting cold of the blizzard to the small courtyard. This courtyard is a triumph of modern architecture. It is spare, cold, angular, overwhelming in size, and bears a striking resemblance to a wind tunnel whenever the breeze picks up. Right now, this is true of the whole campus, though. A huge mass lurks nearby, and an almost featureless skyscraper is to the north. There's a smooth stone here. Yeah, I need to get that stone. Then we can go back inside north, then kind of back the way that we came, down, northwest, up, and south will lead us back to the infinite corridor, where we can save again. And hold on for 1 second. Need to get some water. This is a lot of reading. All right, so where were we? Yes, infinite corridor. Let's head south from here, and that'll lead us to the chemistry building. This corridor is lined with closed, dark offices. At the south end of the corridor is a door with a light shining behind it. There's something written on the door. I believe you might be able to get away with knocking, but I've always been told to do the funny thing here. There's a window on the door. You can break the window with the axe, and that will do the trick as well. So that's what we're going to do. You smash the glass and cracks spread all over the pane from the point of impact. The window remains whole, though, as it's made of wire-reinforced glass. Then we'll wait. The door opens partly, revealing a professorial man in a white lab coat. He smiles. "Good evening. I don't get many visitors this late. You're not one of my students, are you?" He ushers you into the room without waiting for an answer, closing the door behind you. He apparently doesn't care that we just broke his door. We've made it to the Department of Alchemy. This office is clinically clean, shiny, and modern. It looks like something out of a science fiction movie. A closed door to the north leads back into the corridor, and an archway opens to the south. Taped to the wall is to the right of the archway is a sign-up sheet. The professor is here. Let's show the paper that we got on the roof to the professor. He reads it carefully. What drivel. This just confirms my suspicions. He had clearly gone over the edge. Drug use, drinking, insanity. It's only too bad that I didn't realize what was happening. I might have helped him. The professor gazes at you with a distinctly predatory air. Well, I don't like the sound of that. Let's head south out of here. You'd like to see the lab? The professor asks in a rather unctuous tone. Come right in. He ushers you through the archway into the lab, following quickly behind you and turning on the lights. You made it to the lab. The lab is an ultra-modern, fully equipped chemistry lab. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, you aren't a chemistry major, so the equipment might as well be magical. The professor is here. There is a lab bench and an alchemy department computer here. Sitting on the lab bench is a vat. The vat contains a tarry liquid. Or tarry liquid. Tarry is spelled the same, but it means something different. It's almost like tar. It's tarry. The professor guides you to the center of the lab, where a strange pentagonal. Let's go with pentagonal. Where a strange pentagonal symbol is chalked on the floor. He cuts one of the chalk lines with a small knife you had not previously noticed, pushes you into the center of the chalk symbol, and redraws the line, muttering softly and rhythmically as he does so. There, that's done. Don't move from there. It'll only make things worse for you. He makes some odd gestures at the archway and then goes over to the lab bench. I told you I didn't like the sound of predatory. Apparently that's it here. All right, so we are basically trapped in a pentagram. That's what's going on here. He trapped us in there with chalk. Yeah, it's chalk. We have to wait, unfortunately. The professor is preparing something at the lab bench. Alchemy is my chosen field, but I've gotten ridiculed for it. It's like chemistry, except that chemists don't recognize that some natural laws are enforced by persons, not physics. Some of them will grant power or knowledge, but they must be placated or even bribed. They're not of this earth, not demons or devils, and they aren't always friendly. To me, it's just an unpleasant necessity on the path to power. When I'm done, they won't laugh anymore. And we wait again. Yeah, okay. I had to double check, but yes, that's what we needed to do. The professor enters another pentagram and begins a highly choreographed ritual. This may seem a little silly to you, but the symbology is what's important. Certain alignments, certain aspects. In a few moments, it won't matter anyway, he remarks. There is very little room for error here, so be calm. He chants. He brandishes strange instruments, moves about inside the pentagram, and occasionally points to you. It becomes clear exactly what he meant by the word bribe. But luckily, we have an axe. We also have a knife. We can cut the line with a knife. You cut the outer lines of the pentagram. It no longer completely encloses you. The professor sees what you've done out of the corner of his eye. He stares, horrified. Stop! Don't move! He says between verses of the chant. The chant takes on a pleading tone. The chant grows more complex, the professor having difficulty with the almost unpronounceable words, with rhythms and cadences that make you want to stop your ears. The room appears to be getting darker. That's not good. Exit pentagram. Uh-oh. You push your way through a soft spot just over the scuff marks, and you're outside the pentagram. The air is thick and close. A thick black mist begins to form in the room. Parts are darker and parts lighter, and the dark parts form a disturbing shape. The professor chants and calls more loudly now, clearly terrified of what may happen, and you realize the calls are being answered. I don't like this. We're going to move the lab bench. It's heavy, but it moves, revealing a hinged metal trapdoor beneath. The room is now freezing cold, though the windows are shuttered and tightly curtained. Low, bone-rattling vibrations shake the room in cadence with the chant. The black mist is growing thicker. The professor is alternately looking at you and the mist. Let's open the trapdoor. One word? It swings open easily. The black mist swirls wildly around the room, and a deep bass voice gibbers out of thin air. "No!" screams the professor and jumps towards you out of his own pentagram. He realizes what he has done and tries to re-enter, but the mist grabs at him. That's not good. Let's head down to the cinder block tunnel. We made it out. We survived. The professor did not. That's my interpretation. This is a tunnel whose walls are cinder block, with a concrete floor and ceiling. A metal ladder leads up to an open metal plate in the ceiling, and a tunnel continues north where the cinder block walls become brick. From above, you hear a thunderous noise, a maniacal scream, and then the sound of equipment smashing. The trapdoor slams shut, but around it pours a blinding flash of light. Finally, you hear an almost inaudible whimper, then nothing. The light fades, leaving you in the dark. Well, that doesn't sound good at all. Yeah, we need to open the trap door, and then we will turn the flashlight on, and then we can go back up. The lab is a shambles. It looks like something red and sticky has been spread over the walls, ceiling, and floor. Much of the equipment, particularly that near the center of the room, has been destroyed. There's an open metal plate in the floor. There is a brass hyrax, a piece of paper, a lab bench, and an alchemy department computer here. Sitting on the lab bench is a vat. The vat contains a tarry liquid. I don't like any of that. We're gonna put the hand in the vat. When you dip the mummified hand in the liquid, the elixir begins to bubble furiously. You can't really see the hand except when a finger pokes up every so often. The hand bobs to the surface. It's odd, but it looks like one of the fingers moved. We can drop the knife now. We're not going to need that. The hand splashes to the surface. The fingers are moving. We're going to wait. The hand is trying to crawl out of the vat. At this point, we can get the hand. You grab the wiggling hand and draw it forth, newly animated from the vat. As it emerges, the elixir flows off. The hand scuttles up your arm and perches quietly on your shoulder. "I shall call you Thing." All right, let's head north to the Department of Alchemy again. And then we can turn the flashlight off. We're not going to need that anymore, at least for the time being. We will open the door and head north to the chemistry building and north again to the infinite corridor. Okay, that is another scary part done. So let's save that there. Yep, I think that's well, I didn't make it this far, but I think that's the last save that I had from the last one. All right. From here, we want to go west a ways. 1, 2. A disabled floor waxer looms nearby. Yeah. Where's the maintenance man? It doesn't say. All right. 2, 3, and 4 here. and then we'll head north, and that'll take us to the Arrow lobby again. We do need this person here. Slouching nearby is an urchin. He's a youngish teenager wearing a ski hat, running shoes, and a bulky, suspiciously bumpy, threadbare parka. He's jumpy and looks suspiciously at you. Yeah, this one is a term that we actually need to use, right? That this one is somebody that steals a lot, basically. You know, like a street urchin from Dickens novels. Yeah, since he's already here, it's fine. If he's not, you have to wait until he's here. Show the hand to the urchin. The urchin sees the hand twitching. I heard what happens around here. I'm not getting fed to a monster. He lets loose a scream of fear and zooms away. Something drops from beneath his parka as he departs. He slows for a moment, decides not to retrieve it, and disappears into the distance. We're going to get it. It's a bolt cutter that he dropped. You can look at it, but it's a bolt cutter. And then let's drop another save because that worked out pretty well. Okay, we're getting there. Like 2 more kind of main sections. We will. Can we go down from here? And then down again. There we go, to the sub-basement. That's where we needed to go. This is the sub-basement of the Aeronautical Engineering Building. A stairway leads up. A narrow crack in the northwest corner of the room opens into a larger space. We're going to drop the axe, bolt cutter, and metal flask. That's all metal stuff, right? We do have rubber boots and electrician's gloves. We're prepared for electricity. These are not. Just throwing that out there. Let's head northwest. We'll drop the plastic container. I don't know if I even needed that anymore. Let's head northwest then. There we go. This is a tiny, narrow, ill-fitting room. It appears to have been leftover space from the joining of 2 pre-existing buildings. It is roughly coffin-shaped. The walls are covered by decades of overlaid graffiti, but there is one which is painted in huge fluorescent letters that were apparently impossible for later artists to completely deface. On the floor is a rusty access hatch locked with a huge padlock. Well, you know what we gotta do there. Open padlock with master key. Apparently this is part of the university. The lock, though rusty and unwilling, opens, releasing the hatch. We'll take the lock, actually. We will go southeast, and we'll just get everything. Head up and east, back to the Arrow basement. We will open the elevator doors. East again. There we go. There we go. Back to the basement and then elevator doors here. You force the doors apart with your hands, barely able to hold them open. Beyond you see the bottom of the elevator shaft only a few feet below. In the elevator shaft, a tangle of machinery is visible. One bit of the tangle is very much like a hook. So we're going to put the axe between the elevator doors to keep them open. The fire axe wedges nicely between the doors, holding them securely open. Then we'll go south. You drop to the floor below, which isn't all that far down, to the concrete box. The small room is pretty bare and featureless. The north wall is brick and the other 3 walls are concrete. The east and west walls are adorned with rails not unlike railroad rails. Above you and out of reach, the shaft is blocked by something. There is a greasy length of chain coiled on the floor here. Let's just get the chain. And then we will pry bricks with crowbar. The wall begrudgingly yields to your efforts. A brick less well mortared than its fellows gets pulled out of the wall. Let's do the same thing again. You could just hit G to repeat, but I like typing it out. The wall grudgingly yields to your efforts. A brick less well mortared than its fellows drops to the floor on the other side, making a hole through the wall. You can see a rusty steel reinforcing rod in the hole. We're not going to need the crowbar anymore, so we'll drop that. We will attach chain to the rod. You wrap the chain around the rod, but find it too thick to actually tie it. So we're going to put the padlock on the chain. You lock the chain with the padlock. It now forms a secure loop around the rod. Okay, let's go up and back into the basement. In the elevator shaft, a tangle of machinery is visible. One bit of the tangle is very much like a hook. Okay, now we can attach the chain to the hook. You hook the chain to the hook where it looks quite secure. We will get the axe, take the fire axe away, and the door spring shut. Then we will go up to the computer center, up to the second floor again. Then we will press up here. Then we will go down twice. Uh-oh. We hear the elevator moving. That's not scary sounds at all. It's just the elevator. Back to the basement. Then we want to open the elevator doors again. Do I have to put the axe in again, or can I just go south into it? I can just go south into it. You drop to the floor below, which is not all that far down. The doors shut as soon as you release them. It is pitch black. Turn the flashlight on. We're back in the concrete box. The brick wall has an enormous hole ripped in it. There's a crowbar and a new brick here. We want to go north through the hole. That's not good. The steam pipe and coaxial cable turn upwards and disappear into the ceiling here. The tunnel itself comes to an end in a grimy, damp, and dripping triad of crumbling brick walls. It's hard to read with this. This other brick wall has an enormous hole ripped in it. There's a broken brick here. You can hear in the distance a chittering, scratching sound. Okay. We're in the steam tunnel. We need to go west. Oh, it's only going to get louder. You know that. The steam tunnel is narrow here, and its construction is more archaic. It's now mostly brick, although the floor is concrete. The steam pipe and coaxial cable continue along their appointed paths. The tunnel is damp and even a little muddy. The sound is louder. It sounds like small animals. Is it rats? I'm gonna go west again. This dank and grimy tunnel is largely filled with an imperfectly insulated steam pipe. The tunnel is uncomfortably hot and damp. A thick bundle of coaxial cable runs east to west along the ceiling. There's a pressure release valve on the steam pipe here. The sound continues. It's almost certainly rats. Hit valve with axe. The valve, with a horrible scream of tortured metal, gives a little and a small trickle of steam issues forth. The rat sounds are growing louder, but you still can't see the rats. We have to wait. Rats, yet wait. A troop of rats appears out of the darkness. The rats are momentarily startled by your presence, but soon the bolder ones begin to approach. There are more rats here than you have ever seen. That's not good. Then we want to turn the valve here. The valve screeches open. A jet spray of live steam issues from it, filling the tunnel in front of you. The rats are caught in the full force of the blast. Horrible squeals can be heard from the mist of the steam cloud, and scalded rats charge past you, all interest in anything but flight forgotten. One of their number remains, dead. Okay, we want to turn valve again. The valve closes more easily than it opened. We want to go west to the steam tunnel. I think we saw that one. A rusty metal ladder leads up, west again. More steam tunnel. A bundle of coaxial cable runs along the ceiling, festooned with damp mold and cobwebs. The tunnel continues west, so west a third time to the tunnel entrance. The tunnel continues west from here, becoming narrow, muddy, and forbidding. The walls no longer seem to be as finished as they were. The steam pipe and coaxial cable disappear into the ceiling at this point. The temperature has dropped considerably as well. West a fourth time to the muddy tunnel. The tunnel you came through continues down, barely large enough to enter. It is made of a sticky, gelatinous mud that's been pushed by something into a semblance of a passage. Okay, down from here to the large chamber. I don't like this. This is a wide spot in the tunnel, just as wet and muddy as elsewhere. The walls are slimy as well. Numerous slots or indentations about 2 feet wide and a foot high open here and there. Thin wire or rope-like growths emerge from a hole further down and enter each of the slots. There's background noise here, almost loud enough to hear clearly. A small furtive motion attracts your attention to the slots. We are ready to finally use our bolt cutter. We're going to cut the wire with the bolt cutter. You strain and push the 2 handles of the bolt cutter together with all your strength. At first, it looks like nothing will happen, but then, with a loud click, the jaws cut the wire. The wire, as though under tension, rapidly begin to curl up, disappearing down the tunnel and away. Urchins burst forth from the slots. The effect on the urchins is electric, perhaps literally. They twitch, jerk spasmodically, and fall to the ground almost in unison. They have lost all interest in you. Rubber boots and the gloves that did the trick. Let's go ahead and save again here. Probably the last time. Let's head down from here. A few of the urchins grab feebly at you as you pass, but none is a serious barrier. Different kind of urchin, by the way. To the wet tunnel. You are lost in narrow, wet tunnels burrowed through the mud. Muddy, oily water covers the floor. We want to go north from here. Same thing, but then down and south twice. Down one last time, and we've made it to something new. A curtain of moldy slime covers the south wall. That's new. We want to open the metal flask. You open the flask and a cold white mist boils out. Pour liquid on curtain. The liquid splashes onto the curtain and a cold mist fills the room. The slime begins to freeze. Nearly the entire curtain solidifies, shatters, and drops to the ground, revealing an ancient wooden door. Unlock door with master key. The mist dissipates. Open door. South. As you enter, the door closes and locks behind you. The floor here is a stagnant, slime-infested pool of water. It feels to be about 6 inches deep. Ropes or wires tumble down the slope, where they enter a large whitish mass, which takes up much of the chamber. The noise is loud here and comes from the mass, which undulates in synchrony with the noise. Wan, sourceless light illuminates the chamber. Set on the wall, incongruous within its surroundings, is a metal box. On one side, a coaxial cable enters the box. On the other, a cable-like appendage leads from the box to the mass. There's a metal cover on the box. Suddenly, the hand leaps from your shoulder into the slime-encrusted puddle. It dives beneath the water. No! Reach into the puddle! You root around blindly in the gooey, slimy water. You feel something thick and slippery. A tentacle? No. It's cold and dead. It seems to be a line of some kind just below the surface. You hear noises outside the door. Let's get the line. You pull a length of the line out of the water. It's like holding a large, heavy snake. You hear a stumbling noise behind you. Turn and see the hacker staggering into the cavern. The hacker stares at you, shocked. It's you. When I give you my key, I never suspected you'd get this far. We're going to cut the line with the axe. You strike the line with the axe, making a deep gash in the insulation. The hacker stares at the thing in the cave. I got very suspicious about your problems with the net. I began to trace some coax, found some repeaters and bridges that weren't on the layout charts, and started following them. Anyway, here I am. That thing there, whatever it is, and those wires are interfaced to the whole campus net. And that means it's tied into all the nets, commercial, government, even military, potentially. Keep cutting the line with the axe. Your blow cuts through more insulation and into the conductors. I guess I better do something. It could be a serious compromise of system integrity if this thing isn't dealt with. He peers at the mass, as if evaluating it. He then reaches into a pocket and pulls out a small pair of wire strippers. Keep cutting the line with the axe. The line parts. The two ends begin to sink towards the bottom as they straighten out. The hacker advances on the mass, apparently planning to cut some of the wires leading into it. As he approaches it, the sound stops completely and the wires become a frantic, looping, twining dance. The mass begins to flow towards the hacker almost as quickly as he walks towards it. They reach each other and begin to merge together. He screams a long, ululating cry that echoes through the cavern. Then he is engulfed. Need to get the line here. You carefully grab the line just as it's about to drop into the water. The mass is bulging, vibrating, and rippling. Then we need to open the metal box. You remove the cover, revealing a plethora of electronic innards. Most prominent are a socket into which the coaxial cable is plugged, and a connector into which the glistening cable-like appendage disappears. The mass is bulging, vibrating, and rippling. We need to attach line to socket. Isn't that? Or no, we need to disconnect the coaxial. Disconnect cable. Disconnect coaxial cable. You're not doing what I want, and the sound is not helping. You unscrew the cable. It now hangs unconnected inside the mass, inside the box. The hacker pulls himself out of the side of the mass. As he does, you think you can see many pairs of eyes appear briefly in the semi-transparent mass, watching curiously. Wires and tentacles trail from his body, and tiny, almost rat-like creatures cling to his body everywhere, crawling about like ants. He walks slowly, jerkily towards you. Be one, he says, haltingly but fervently. Alright, attach power line to socket. There we go. There we go. You shove the exposed conductors onto the socket, producing a shower of sparks. The tentacle connected to the other socket begins to jerk and twitch spasmodically. The mass it's connected to quivers, and a horrible noise, almost like a huge machine running without oil, issues from the thing. The hacker screams soundlessly and drops into the water. The mass begins to change shape, compacting, darkening. You can briefly see human outlines within the gray gelatinous mass. They surround something larger, of a shape not human, not animal, like nothing you've seen before. The gelatinous mass solidifies and compacts, leaving behind a litter of smoking debris. In the debris squats a being, huge, misshapen. It stares at you with baleful yellow eyes. Its scaly wings beat slowly, driving a fetid stench through the stale air of the cavern. A barbed tongue slides across its broken dagger-like fangs. The smooth stone vibrates. It starts to feel warm. No, not yet. Wait. The thing tenses, preparing to leap. Its mouth opens, revealing not the glistening interior, but a dead black outline like a hole into nothingness. The smooth stone is now glowing with a bright red heat that nevertheless fails to burn you. Throw the stone at the thing. This is the lurking horror. The stone smashes into the creature, sticking to its ichorous hide. The thing thrashes about, trying to bite at the stone, which is glowing brighter and brighter. Small hands issue from beneath its scales to tug in vain at the irritant. The creature begins to show gaping holes of dark, light-devouring nothingness around the stone. Its wings spread painfully, as though it were trying to fly away, and then fold. It widens its jaw into an almost human scream of agony. The black hole of its maw overwhelms it, and indeed the creature appears to be swallowing itself. At last, a gray cloud of greasy smoke surrounds the glowing stone, still suspended in midair. Then even that vanishes, and the stone drops to the ground, no longer glowing. The thing is gone. Let's get the stone again. You pick up the stone. It has a long, jagged crack that almost breaks it in half. As you pick it up, you feel it bump to one side. Then as you are holding it in your hand, something pushes its way out through the crack, breaking the stone into two pieces. Something small, pale, and damp blinks its watery eyes at you. It hisses, gaining strength, and spreads membranous wings. It takes to the air, at first clumsily, then with increased assurance, and disappears into the gloom. One eerie cry drifts back to where you stand. Something rises out of the mud, slowly straightening. The hacker, mud-covered and weak, staggers to his feet. "Can I have my key back?" he asks. Your score is 100 out of a possible 100 and 242 moves. Graded on the curve, you are in the class of President of the Institute, which I assume is the highest you can get. And that is the game. And with the game played, it's time to talk about how it holds up today. Playing the game today, I definitely had fun playing the Lurking Horror. It's a fun game. If you are into horror games, this is a game that should be right up your alley, as long as you like text adventure games. And I do appreciate that they went a different direction. This is much more of a horror-based game than it is the comedy adventure type games that we have seen that are kind of more traditionally fantasy or sci-fi with Planetfall and Zork and all that kind of stuff. So this is a different genre for them, and I think that it works well. I don't think that giving answers to what the creatures are or anything like that would have added anything to it, because it's horror. You don't really expect that, and I didn't expect it this time, and I think that it works out well. I think that the writing is very well done. I do wish that there was a little bit more background on things that we were doing and why we were doing it, but that is probably due to me not exploring around too much, just trying to get through the game and get to the things that I need to do and pick up and things like that. There are definitely some open-ended questions at the end of this game, which is to be expected from a horror game, but ultimately this was done well. The big thing, though, is the sound. Let's talk about the sound. This is the first sound that we have gotten in an Infocom game. It took until 1987 for them to get sound. We have played sound on computer games for years at this point, but Infocom finally coming through and doing it. And what do I think of the sound? I would say, for the most part, it adds to the atmosphere. There's definitely a positive aspect to the sound overall. With that said, some of those noises didn't need to be on loop while I'm trying to read and figure out what to do next. It made it very distracting, especially those rats and the end. So there are definitely some times when I felt, okay, we don't need to hear this sound anymore. We can turn that off. But overall, I think the sound is a positive for the game. It is definitely something that adds to the creepy atmosphere of everything that we are seeing. Like the kind of drum beat at the beginning was probably the best sound that they had the whole time, which might be why they had it at the beginning, but we did get the electrical, whatever, the short or whatever it technically was officially, but the electrical sounds, the scream from one of the shapes, the Lurking Horror, you have to assume, that was kind of following us around. I would love to have gotten more from the alchemist, the professor that was doing the pentagram, and what was going on there. Did he summon the Lurking Horror? Were there multiple things? Is it all one thing? I don't really know. But ultimately, the fact that I have these questions is good. It shows that I have an interest in the story. So in terms of recommending this to people, I would say, once again, if you like text adventure games, because I know a lot of people don't, but if you are a fan of this style of game and don't mind the lack of graphics, and you like horror, this is definitely a game that you should play. Absolutely. This is definitely a fun game. I don't think that my playthrough is going to spoil too much for you. You can try to figure out a lot of this stuff by yourself. A lot of the puzzles were fairly easy to solve if you had the equipment on you, but how are you supposed to know that you were going to need a knife before you went into the alchemy lab, for instance? That kind of thing requires you to just have a bit of pre-knowledge, so it might take a few times to get through some of the puzzles, but I don't think there were any puzzles that were really out of the blue. Everything was just kind of, well, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. There were just some heated moments that would be difficult if you didn't have the proper order to do things in. So if you are a fan of text adventure games, interactive fiction games, and you like horror, this is a game worth checking out. Absolutely. If you're not a fan of horror, not a fan of text adventure games, obviously this game's not going to do it for you, and then you can avoid it. And that's my modern take on the game. When the game was released, the lurking horror was received very well by critics. In particular, the game's stories, its puzzles, and the horror aspects of the game were praised. As time has gone on, when the game is remembered, it is remembered very well. It will occasionally make lists of the best games of all time and lists of the scariest games of all time. With another success, Infocom would continue to create interactive fiction games. We will hear from Infocom again. As for Dave Lebling, while he would make another game, it would not be nearly as successful as his other games. This will be the last time we hear from Dave Lebling. That will do it for the story of the lurking horror for now. My name is Baller Scuba. This has been Video Games Over Time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in our next video when we defend mankind.